Before you fall in love with a house or before you accept an offer on your home, you need to understand one thing that can make or break an entire deal: contingencies. These are the if this happens conditions built into every smart real estate contract, and they protect you more than you might realize, whether you're buying or selling. Today, I'm walking you through the major contingencies I see here in the Metro Detroit area, what they mean, how they actually play out, and some real-world examples that most people never hear about. So, let's start with the one that everyone has feelings about: the inspection contingency. This is the buyer's chance to bring in a licensed home inspector to look at the property from top to bottom. And I always remind my clients, the inspection is not designed to nitpick. It's there to uncover issues that could impact health, safety, or structure integrity. If the inspector finds something unexpected, like foundation cracks, electrical issues, or roof concerns, the buyer can request repairs, negotiate a credit, or walk away entirely, depending on the contract. Buyers love this because it protects them from expensive surprises. Sellers appreciate it too, because a home that's been well maintained typically breezes through without any major setbacks. For example, I had a sale in Plymouth where the inspection uncovered a cracked sewer line. That could have killed the deal. Instead, we negotiated a fair credit, both sides stayed calm, and everything moved forward smoothly. That's what a contingency is designed to do. It gives you options instead of chaos. Once the buyer understands the condition of the home, the next question becomes whether the home is actually worth what they're offering. That leads us right to the appraisal contingency. If a buyer is using a mortgage, the lender orders an appraisal to confirm the home's value. If the appraisal comes in low, the buyer has options: renegotiate the price, appeal the appraisal, bring additional cash, or step away from the deal. It's a safety net during a time when emotions usually are running high. In highly competitive areas like Grosse Pointe, Northfield, and West Bloomfield, buyers sometimes include appraisal guarantees. That means even if the appraisal comes in low, they'll cover the difference with their own cash. It's a way to make their offer stand out. A few months ago in Farmington Hills, an appraisal came in $12,000 under contract price. But because the buyer had included a $15,000 guarantee, my seller didn't panic, and the deal closed without a hiccup. Without that guarantee, that would have been days of renegotiations. Now that we've talked about the value of the home, let's shift to something that's just as important: how the buyer's paying for it. And that's where financing contingency comes in. This contingency protects the buyer in case the loan falls through, even if they're already pre-approved. Maybe their income changes, maybe the lender uncovers an issue, maybe the interest rate shifts. If the loan is denied, the buyer can step back without losing their earnest money. For sellers, the financing contingency tells you a lot about how strong the buyer really is. A fully underwritten pre-approval from a solid lender here in the Metro Detroit area carries much more weight than a quick online pre-qualification. So I had a deal in Royal Oak where my buyer switched lenders in the middle of the process. The new lender couldn't close on time, and it caused a 2-week delay that almost jeopardized the seller's next purchase. The financing contingency protected my buyer, but it was a great reminder: the lender matters just as much as the loan approval. So we've covered the home's condition, its value, and financing. Now let's talk about something buyers rarely think about, but absolutely should: whether the seller can legally transfer the property. That's where a title contingency comes in. Before closing, the title company does a deep search to make sure the property has a clean, transferable title. No unpaid taxes, no old liens, no unknown heirs, and no ownership disputes. If something pops up, the title contingency allows the buyer to pause the process until it's resolved. So most of the time, everything checks out quickly, but once in a while, something surprisingly shows up. A seller I worked with in Chesterfield had a contractor lien pop up from work that was done years ago, before they even owned the home. We paused, got proof that the lien was invalid, cleared it up, and kept the deal intact. That's exactly why this contingency exists. It protects the buyer and protects the integrity of the closing. So when you put all these contingencies together, the inspection, the appraisal, the financing, and the title search, they create a safety net that keeps the deal fair, transparent, and predictable for everyone involved. But there's one more thing I want to touch on because it's a mistake I see too often: removing contingencies without understanding the risk. Some buyers try to waive the inspections or skip the appraisal protections to make their offer stronger. And sometimes that works, but only if you're absolutely prepared for what comes next. Buyers should always know their limits before offering an appraisal guarantee. Sellers should always look closely at a buyer's lender, and both sides should use contingencies to protect themselves, not to complicate the process. Contingencies aren't loopholes, they're safeguards. They make your offer stronger, your decision smarter, and your closing smoother. And when they're used strategically, they give both sides confidence from start to finish. And if you're sitting there wondering which contingencies make the most sense for your situation, feel free to reach out to me with any questions you might have. You can visit my website, leslieemartin.com, or find me on Instagram, Leslie E. Martin, DTW. I'm Leslie Martin. I look forward to helping you make your next move.